this, are ya? Traitors, mate, a lot of ya. This is our country. You should be here standing with us. We're back.
Well, there's a fear that the far right.
Tonight, outside Britain's seat of power, something fundamental is breaking. Not a pane of glass or a policy pledge, but trust itself. The quiet contract between a leader and the people who placed him in office. And this evening that fracture bears anim. Keir Starmer. Crowds have filled the streets around Downing Street, not with anger in their fists, but with bills in their hands. Energy bills that have tripled, heating costs that have forced impossible choices. These aren't symbols. They're evidence. Proof of a nation squeezed to the point of exhaustion. This isn't a party protest. It's a civic one, a people's revolt. And if you're watching tonight, you likely understand why the scale is striking. From Parliament Square to Number 10, the streets are gridlocked. Police have sealed 3 surrounding roads. Many hold placards scribbled on the backs of final notices. The chants began at 6 hours and 4 hours on have not relented. This is not chaos. It's coordinated desperation, the inevitable result of 2 years of unrelieved strain. Let's look at how we got here. In 2024, Keir Starmer promised stability after years of political turbulence. He pledged to restore trust, to put working families first, and to confront the cost of living crisis with what he called courage and compassion. The images were familiar. Starmer and rolled up sleeves, listening in living rooms and village halls across Britain. The message was clear. He understood, but the record suggests otherwise. Energy prices have surged 54% in 2 years. More than 2 million households have slipped into fuel poverty. That isn't opinion. That's the data. Meanwhile, 30 billion in green subsidies have flowed offshore to corporations far removed from the communities now rationing heat. The contrast is hard to ignore. Ministers preach sacrifice, while their expense accounts show heated second homes and chauffeured cars idling outside Parliament. When challenged in the Commons last month, Starmer brushed aside criticism as short-term thinking, insisting that net zero targets were, quote, non-negotiable. That phrase landed heavily. Millions who've never had the luxury of negotiation heard it as confirmation of how far government has drifted from their lives. The clip went viral, not for policy detail, but for tone. Polished, distant, clinical. The voice of a man who's never had to choose between heating and eating. Look closely at the crowd tonight. These aren't agitators. They're nurses still in scrubs after 12-hour shifts, holding signs that read, "I save lives but can't afford to heat my home." Teachers watching pupils arrive in winter coats because breakfast and warmth can't both be paid for. Pensioners forced to choose between medication and heat. Small business owners, bakers, publicans, printers who've shut their doors as costs quadruple. They're not climate skeptics. They're citizens asking a reasonable question. Why are billions funding foreign wind farms while British families shiver indoors? And why, they ask, is raising that question treated as heresy? The government's response has been swift and unrevealing. The Energy Secretary, Sarah Jones, branded protesters useful idiots for fossil fuel interests. The Climate Minister, David Walsh, called them scientifically illiterate. But on the ground, the picture is very different. These are not fools. They are people who feel abandoned. And tonight they've decided to be heard. Here lies the uncomfortable truth the Prime Minister refuses to confront. You cannot save the planet by sacrificing the people who live on it. Net zero isn't the problem, but a net zero policy that protects the wealthy, while punishing the working class, certainly is. That's the reality we're witnessing. Green levies barely touch the affluent. They kai taui, those on fixed incomes. Carbon taxes don't burden multinationals with offshore accounts. They shutter local factories. The rich install subsidized solar panels. The poor sit in the dark. When energy giants declared $4.1 billion in profits last year, the government's much-trumpeted windfall tax recovered only a fraction. Riddled with loopholes, Shell paid an effective 19%, BP 22%. Meanwhile, a single mother in Birmingham paid 100% of her doubled energy bill. No deductions, no rebates, no escape. That isn't governance, it's performance. And for the first time in years, the audience has stopped applauding. The numbers tell a brutal truth. In 2024, 8% of British households lived in fuel poverty. Today, that figure has climbed to 14. More than 4 million homes where families now spend over a tenth of their income just to stay warm. Among pensioners, the situation is worse. Nearly 1 in 4 are rationing their heating. Hospital admissions linked to cold exposure have risen by 31% in just 2 years. Last winter alone, 3 elderly residents in South London died in homes where the heating had been switched off. Not out of neglect, but out of necessity. Inside a number 10 tonight, advisors will be telling the Prime Minister this unrest will pass, that it's political noise. But listen closely. That noise isn't fading, it's swelling. Because what's unfolding outside those gates isn't about one bill or one policy. It's about something deeper. Dignity, respect, and the right to be heard. When people say, "I can't afford this," they're not taking a political stance. They're stating a fact and reminding their leaders that politics isn't a game of strategy. It's about survival. Yet those lives are now being balanced against abstract targets drawn up by people who will never feel the cold their policies create. Keir Starmer built his brand on pragmatism. The careful lawyer, the man of detail, the steady hand. But somewhere between opposition and office, the details stopped including ordinary people. His speeches became presentations. His empathy turned into policy language, and his favorite phrase, necessary sacrifice, became a shield for policies that cut deepest where resilience has already run out. It's easy to call hardship necessary when your own heating is publicly funded. Easy to praise transition when you've never had to decide whether you can afford to boil a kettle. Tonight's protest isn't the work of party machines or professional organizers. There are no union flags, no party slogans, no campaign leaders. What's happening outside Downing Street is organic, a spontaneous outpouring of frustration from people who no longer need a spokesperson. It's the arithmetic of survival that no longer balances. When a full-time nurse can't afford to heat her home, the system isn't under strain. It's broken. When a veteran chooses between warmth and food, that's not an economic issue. It's a moral one. And when the Prime Minister answers with more jargon, more targets, and another promise to trust the process, he isn't leading, he's deflecting. Even within Labour, Thetramores are beginning to show. 3 backbench MPs issued a joint statement this afternoon calling for an urgent review of energy policy, a clear signal that the unease has reached Westminster. One Conservative MP, a longtime advocate of net zero, put it bluntly, "We can't ask people to save the planet while we bankrupt them." That isn't policy. That's cruelty disguised as principle. So where does this go next? History offers 2 outcomes when the public fills the streets not with ideology but with lived hardship. The leader listens and adapts, or the leader falls. Starmer still has a choice, but time is running short and the chants outside are beginning to drown out the council inside. The British public is famously patient. We queue. We apologize when others step on our feet and we tolerate more than most. But patience has limits. And tonight that limit has been crossed. This isn't about left and right anymore. It's about top and bottom. Those making decisions at the summit of power and those forced to live with the consequences below. And the message from below is unmistakable. People are finished being managed, patronized, and sacrificed in the name of policies that demand everything from them, and nothing from those in charge. If the Prime Minister truly believes he's on the right side of history, it's time to step outside. Not with a statement or a tweet, but with open ears and an honest heart. Because history isn't written by those hiding behind press releases. It's written by people who speak when silence costs more than courage. And tonight, Britain has made that calculation. The question now isn't whether this movement will fade. It won't. Movements born of necessity don't disappear. They evolve. They spread and they redefine what a democracy will tolerate. The real question is whether Keir Starmer will listen before it's too late. Before this stops being a political crisis and becomes something much more profound, a crisis of legitimacy. Starmer must go. It's no longer just a chant echoing through Whitehall. It's starting to sound like a verdict. And make no mistake, this feels less like an ending and more like the beginning of something that Westminster can no longer afford to ignore.